All right.
My attention span will thank you.
Oh, we're live. Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Sarikoff. I am the producer of The Future of Storytelling. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're here for the first time, you have found FoST Speaker Hangouts. We do these weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We have the pleasure of being joined by one of our illustrious FoST Summit speakers to kind of continue the conversations that transpired at the summit. So today we are joined by Molly Templeton and Kenyatta Cheese of Everybody at Once. Everybody at Once is a consultancy that specializes in audience development and social strategy for media and entertainment. So thanks so much for joining us. You guys want to say hi?
Hey!
Hi!
Hi!
Thanks for having us.
Kenyatta, what do you do at Everybody at Once?
Co-founder and creative director of Everybody at Once. I just oversee all the things and sort of set direction based on this type of things that we all talk about as a team, things that we think are important, things that we see happening within fan communities, etc.
Great. And Molly?
It's sort of a like creative strategist, I think is what we're ending up in. I don't know. I'm embedded at BBC America as director of social. They're one of our clients, and I am sort of involved in all other strategy conversations.
Great. So your history at FoST dates back to 2013 for our second annual event when you led your first roundtable about kind of fan ecosystems, fandoms. Backed by popular demand, you joined us again in 2013 to kind of continue that conversation, and not surprisingly, the nature of audience engagement in fandoms had changed quite a bit. So I think what we're going to attempt to do today is kind of debrief on how the nature of the audience and participation has evolved from then to the present. And I think a good starting point will be to maybe pull up your FoST film that I think we should have a brief clip of. So Luke, if you could roll that, that would be great.
What we did was we built the Doctor Who Tumblr. When you look at these numbers, they're kind of incredible, right? You see 21 million posts a month just about Doctor Who. We've created a space where people can come and talk about the show, share their work, feel as if they're part of a community. You have this experience, this second screen experience, if you will, that doesn't necessarily take you out of the show, doesn't take you out of the narrative, but that moment when you have that reaction of, oh, just one sort of like little look that one character will give somebody else, you're going to take that scene, you're going to rip it, and then you're going to make an animated GIF out of it, so you can share that scene out to people and be like, this was it, this was the thing that I loved. When other people come across that work, they're not just going to like it, they're going to reblog it, and they're going to add their own commentary. Oh my God, I love this too. This was awesome. And then maybe those two people start following one another, and then maybe they start actually gaining conversation with one another, not just about the show, but other things in life.
Great. So Kenyatta and Molly, I'd love to hear you guys talk a little bit about what the Doctor Who Tumblr was all about, what made it so successful, and how a group of fans were really able to connect over a shared interest and grow this into a thriving, passionate friendship and relationship within this network.
Yeah, we early on we ended up working with BBC America, who were just starting to launch Doctor Who, relaunch Doctor Who in the U.S. On their own channel, and they knew that there was something interesting happening with the Doctor Who fan community, with Whovians on the internet, but they weren't sure where and how and what necessarily to do. The person who actually brought us in, Rachel Garcia, who's of the internet like the rest of us, like she knew something interesting was happening on Tumblr, wasn't sure what to do, and so we kind of went in, saw the conversations that were happening, saw that people weren't just making amazing fan art, they weren't just making GIFs, anime GIFs of their favorite scenes, but they were using them as points of conversation. And we kind of realized that that was actually the thing that was most interesting. It's not necessarily the content; it's the community that people build around it. And by community, it's you're building relationships and building conversation. And so we set out to create an official blog that on Tumblr that that was sort of more like a blog from someone who was a fellow Whovian, which I was, and sort of took on a lot of the sort of realized that if we wanted if we wanted to operate in this space, we had to speak the language, we had to know the culture, we had to know the customs. We couldn't just sort of go in there with this sort of industrial model of what corporate communication should look like. Yeah, I mean, it ended up being a success, mostly from collecting, mostly collecting the conversations and the interesting stuff that was that's already being passed around in the community, and being able to sort of put it up, just hold it up in front of us for other folks to take and make something of it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound about right, Ma?
Yeah, and I think from there what Kenyatta did that was really brilliant in 2013 was that he observed the emotional high points from the community and was able to sort of reflect them back to themselves with his original content. So he created live blogging. It was a second screen experience on Tumblr that lined up to the on-air broadcast for new episodes of Doctor Who. So he would make GIFs and like take quotes of moments that he thought would trigger the community and synchronize it to the broadcast on BBC America.
Wow. And so there was this aha moment in this process, right, where you kind of realized that you needed to learn how to speak the language of fans. I mean, you noticed that fans were sharing content in a certain way, and they were starting conversations around this. And I feel like that's kind of challenge number one, right, that brands have to kind of figure out, is understanding their audience. So how do you guys help brands do that?
Molly, what do you think?
I think it's all about evaluating what the brand's point of view is in social. I just wrote a thing about this yesterday where I was thinking about, like, how do we position ourselves in responding to all the different outputs surrounding Doctor Who? And what does it mean to be a Whovian? And what does it mean to be a Whovian with authority who represents the official brand? And I wrote down, like, all these qualities that are sort of direction that I just take whenever we post anything to the blog. Like, we're kind, we're understanding, we have big hearts, we're loving, we're enthusiastic, we're grateful, we're not afraid to be ourselves, we're a part of the community, and we're authentic. And it's our responsibility to deliver messaging and to reflect the behavior that we want to see in the community. That's my approach, and I think that kind of works for every brand, not just Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's I would add to that, there's these are things that you can those are the one half of it, which is understanding yourself, understanding your brand, and understanding your show, and as a stand for, but then understanding what the stuff you create that actually means to the audience. And that's something that you can increasingly we're able to use analytics tools to kind of get a sense of sentiment and topic volume and stuff like, or topics that people are interested in, et cetera, but there's still no, it still helps to get out from behind the dashboard and actually get into and actually see what people are actually, actually do a Twitter search yourself. Actually, not just look at tags on Tumblr, but follow a mix of different kinds of fans. Same thing on Instagram. Once you have this culture off of your content, they're going to take it in directions that you may not have intended. And as yes, sometimes that's going to feel weird and challenging, but most of the time, you're going to find that people are going to embrace the things that you are trying to put, the ideas you're trying to put forth in the first place, right? That's why they connect to the content to begin with, and it's amazing, right? And so it can figure out who you are, and then figure out who everyone else is, and how that can be the start of a good conversation.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that access to some of these analytics tools have maybe revealed some further information about fan communities since your 2013 roundtable, and maybe if you could provide any examples of more recent projects that you've been working on, and what kind of analytics have been able to expose about those?
Sure. I think analytics gives a new kind of insight into something we already sensed about fandom, which is that if we interact with a fan who's sort of 5 steps along the way from being a bigger fan or interacting with us directly, then they're more likely to feel like part of the community sooner. And analytics help us see that pattern effectively, and they help us identify the people that we need to engage with. That's really helpful.
So it's a tool to reach new communities as well, and new fans, and realize that you have followers out there that maybe you didn't know existed.
Yeah, one of the things I've been talking about lately is finding the corners. There's some of these communities are so big, and it's really, really easy just to see the people who interact with you directly, and it's really, really easy to see the people around that who are like using a hashtag. It's really hard to find the people over here in the corner who like use a very specific tag or don't tag at all, or are only interested in this one tiny micro thing. And analytics are really, really helpful to identify the whole box of people who are involved in the conversation.
And I remember one topic that came up in your roundtables was this dynamic between the passive, active, and the super fan. So is there a relationship there between the people in the corners and who these active fans are? And it feels like we're starting to formulate different categories of the kinds of followers that you guys are finding. Can you talk any more about that?
Kenyatta, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. There's this traditional model of fan engagement that saw sort of passed around quite a bit, and it was this idea that if you wanted to activate your community, you would find super fans, the people who talk about you all the time, and you get them riled up, and then they will just automatically get all the other fans to get involved and to do stuff. And then we started doing a bunch of work based on the principle and found that it actually didn't work very well. We actually started doing our own sort of look at fandoms and kind of at other fan communities, not just the ones we were working on, and realized that that model is kind of flawed, and it's because your super fans, the people who talk about you the most, often have those diverse social graphs. So they're actually end up talking. There are fans who are talking to other already existing fans. And if you're actually trying to build your fan community, if you're actually trying to grow it, if you're trying to actually bring more people into the fold, you have to concentrate on what we call, what we consider active fans and passive fans, right? And your active fans are the ones who are creating things, but they have other interests, right? They might be on more than one platform. The passive fans are the folks who may have, they may have come over and liked your page at one point, or they decided to follow you, but they don't do much else. If it's TV, they'll watch your show, but that doesn't necessarily translate into online engagement.
I've been thinking recently that opting into a fandom or a fan community is more than just hitting a like button, right? Now, in order to consider yourself part of a fandom, you have to contribute to something. You have to make something or talk about something. Did we lose the connection? I'm seeing Julia very still right now.
I see it still too. But we should continue talking because this is a good point.
We're just having a nice conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's this thing of what happens when you decide to actually put up your flag saying you are part of this fan community, right? Versus it being something that you passively enjoy.
So I got cut off there a little bit, but I'm sure everything that you just said was brilliant. So yeah, my apologies, are having some technical difficulties here. But I saw that there was a question that also just came in on Twitter. Molly, do you see that in the chat box there? Do you want to read it for us?
Sure. The question is, are certain types of stories better at generating passionate fandoms? And I kind of think to an extent, but I don't know how you predict this. There are certain things that definitely have a firm base in social media, in the places that fandoms thrive on Tumblr and Twitter, there are things like sci-fi that have, 100 years of build, 50 years for Doctor Who, right? Where people have been having those types of conversations, so it's a natural progression to take it onto the internet. But then there are things like Broad City, and it's like two girls in New York just, I don't know, being wild and hilarious. And that, that doesn't have such firm roots in the platform, or it doesn't fit into one of these sub-genres so neatly. And we see those things break through, and they're hugely successful. So I don't think there's really a secret recipe for what is better than.
I would say, Molly, I'd actually add to that a bit about the important thing is actually to look at your entire universe, because it's not just the narrative story that's being told, but it's the story, it's all of the other things that exist within the environment that you've created, your characters, the relationships with one another, the setting, the creators themselves. People love, when they, people don't, there were a few years where the big rage was everyone was creating like Twitter accounts for characters, and people didn't want to follow them. They wanted to follow the actors, right? Because all these people make up the universe of this thing that you're making as a creator, and people want to explore as much as possible, right? The DVD extra was only the beginning. It doesn't have to be something that happens linearly. It could be something that plays. It could be a story that plays out over a ton of different platforms, in a ton of different media, in ways that don't even look like things that you can necessarily control.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about how we need to take more tiny risks to engage fans as brands. So, for example, for Doctor Who, one of the big pushes this year was to get behind-the-scenes content. We saw a lot of unofficial behind-the-scenes content that fans were sharing in previous years. So we worked with production, and now we're getting regular content released like almost daily for Doctor Who accounts, and they're tiny moments, like here's the craft services table, here's like a blurry picture of a prop that you don't understand and you won't understand until the next series comes out. But giving people these like small insights can help to build up the whole universe and build the story and keep it engaged.
Right.
Kenyatta, I want to go back to something that you just brought up, which is this idea of kind of trends and the evolving media landscape. I mean, you mentioned when it was such a big fad for people to create these fake Twitter accounts for fictional characters. So, I mean, how do brands maintain cultural relevancy as the media environment is changing so quickly? And is the idea that you have to piggyback and jump on these trends? Or is it more important to kind of stay true to your legacy identity? Do you throw money at the problem? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, you can do all these things. For some brands who are just trying to make a lot of noise, so therefore you're going to throw money at a trending topic, you're going to throw money at Facebook ads, and you're going to say "bay," use the word "bay" in every other tweet. But those aren't the things that necessarily are going to. Those are things that are going to get you a bunch of attention, but they're not actually going to build affinity. They're actually not going to build love, right, for the thing that you do. And so that's where it is important to, as you just said, stay true to yourself. Understand how the things that you stand for, and then figure out how those things translate to a new environment. And not only each platform a new environment, but each community, each sort of, you may have one conversation that's happening at the center that takes up like 50% of your topic volume, but then there are these really interesting conversations happening as Molly says, in the corners that are sometimes just as important, because that could tell you where the conversation needs to go next. All of that means nothing if you're not doing something that actually represents what you're going to stand for long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Molly,
so it looks like, yeah, Molly, do you want to add anything to that?
That sounds perfect to me, and it's getting a little noisy.
Okay, then I'm going to go back to the Twitter, because it looks like our girl Kristen Taylor has sent in a question for us. What happens when fandoms collide and join together? And she's referencing now Matt Smith going to HP News. Any comments?
Molly, what do you think?
Okay, this is referencing Matt Smith, who played the 11th Doctor on Doctor Who, and there's some speculation circling today about him being in the upcoming Harry Potter film. I think it's Fantastic Beasts or something. So this, for us, is an interesting opportunity. Of course, this is completely speculation right now. We have no idea what's actually happening. But this is really exciting, because this is a way that Harry Potter fans can have an opportunity to be exposed to Doctor Who. I mean, I see any collision in fandom as an opportunity.
Yeah, they are opportunities because it's if you play it right, these are new people who maybe for us, we always talk about how the 2 or 3 things you need to always sort of, I don't want to say win's such a bad word, but you have to pay attention to how people come across you and come across the stuff you're making, right? And it's they might search for it, it might be social recommendations, or it might just be discovery, be it curated, human curated, or algo curated. And when those opportunities come up, when people come across your thing, you have to have something there for them, right? If all of a sudden everyone comes across we made a Tumblr post we may have posted years ago about Matt Smith or about the 11th Doctor, in their search for information about Matt Smith and Harry Potter, we have to have something there for them. Once they're finished reading this article, once they're finished watching this fan video, whatever it is, they know that they can seek more, right? Because the more opportunities you have to put your content in front of somebody else, the more opportunities you have to get people to actually see what to talk to you, essentially, to find out what you stand for, the better chances that they're going to actually care and want to follow. One of the things I've been, Molly, I don't know, have I talked to you about the balloon thing recently?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, so I've been obsessed with this idea that we have to start thinking about our content, about these pieces of content that we make as sort of balloons, right? If it's fully deflated, if it's only the thing that you've made, then there's only so many points at which you can touch the balloon. But if you blow it up and you sort of you actually increase the volume of it, you actually get it out there in more places than really intended, by letting fans take it and everything from share it to make derivatives of it and remake, the balloon expands and you have more possible touch points on it. And that's the thing. And so there's this this thing of trying to figure out how to take the original content I made, the original characters I made, and create as many points as possible for people to actually to it, and to be able to dive deeper and then decide whether or not it's something they care about, right? Because actually becoming a part of a fandom is or just even deciding to watch a TV show, like for an entire series, that's such a huge investment, right? We're asking people to make these all the time. We're always throwing advertisements out at getting people to try to watch this thing and look chicken fingers. I keep on seeing this trending. But if you don't have, and that's great, but once you have that broad awareness, you need to have moments for people to actually sort of dive in. And one of those ways that they do end up diving in is finding the thing that they love, which may be Harry Potter, finding out about if they haven't heard of Matt Smith before, they're going to start coming in at you at the side door, and you just have to be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got a few we've got just a few minutes left, so I think I'm gonna kind of end with one final question to both of you, which is what are some of the most interesting, thriving fan communities out there that we should be aware of that have maybe the greatest success stories based on the theory of the inflatable balloon?
Molly, what do you think? What's your first?
I really love the Marvel community. It's not a fandom I'm really that much of a part of, but I do like comic book communities in general. I've been very interested in I don't know. It's so expansive. There are so many different access points for that franchise, and so many places for you to go after you've consumed one piece of content from Marvel.
That's a good one. I'm not a huge fan of the show, but I absolutely love the fandom for the 100, which is the WB show, because I'm starting to see. I'm starting to see I can't remember how many seasons the show's been on now, but we're starting to see the fan work evolve from being only about the show and only about the characters to now starting to bring in other fandoms, using moments in the show as talking points for larger issues around representation, around sexuality, around rights. That are the kind of things that you want to see happen, or at least we would like to see happen with a fan community. Oh God, it sounds like a plug, but I think watching the Orphan Black fan community sort of evolve over time has also been kind of really cool. Because only because of how dense it's become. Not only because, but they have this amazing identity, and you almost get this feeling when looking at either Instagram accounts from people who absolutely love Orphan Black, or if you look at their blogs, that if any two Orphan Black fans got together at any moment, random fans got together at any moment, they could have a conversation for hours, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been such an interesting, fun conversation. It is a pleasure to have both of you in the FoST community. So more and more conversations like this to be had for sure. But I think for now we're going to sign off, and thank you both for joining us. And we will see all of you back here again next Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern for our next speaker hangout.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon. Guys.
Bye.